Today on the news and why it matters, a new report alleges Bernie Sanders told Elizabeth Warren a woman could not win president. Ooh, that's not a good look for him. Also, the new 2020 landscape. We have some dropouts. And the Iran protests, what you aren't hearing in the mainstream media. We've got a lot coming up, and it starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I'm Sarah Gonzalez. Today joined by Stu Bergier.
I'm disturbed at how happy you are when people are suffering.
Really?
All around Iran. And look at you.
I mean,
unbelievable.
Do I just have to be like sad all the time?
Yes. The only appropriate thing to be.
Stu Bergier, who is very sad today. Also, Grant Stinchfield, conservative commentator. Grant Stinchfield joins us again.
You're happy because I'm here.
Yeah, I'm happy you're back. We haven't seen you in a while. It's good to see you. And Aaron Colin, the Blaze.com's own writer, Aaron Colin. It's going to be a fun ride today. We got a lot coming up. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Black Rifle Coffee Company, which is, of course, a veteran-owned and operated premium small batch roast-to-order coffee company for, patriots. Patriots Only Club. Okay, that's what Black Rifle is. They import the highest quality beans from around the world, and then they roast their coffees after you place your order. So you are literally getting the freshest coffee available. They have a ton of different roasts. They've got whole bean, they've got ground, and they've got also the single serve coffee rounds. Of course, the best way to utilize Black Rifle is to join the Black Rifle Coffee Club. You can have it shipped directly to your home or office for free every month. And that means that, A, you're getting a discount when you join the Black Rifle Coffee Club. And B, you're not going to go to the coffee maker at 11 o'clock at night to go make coffee for the following morning and be like, oh, we're out of coffee, so I'm going to be dead tomorrow at work. Yeah, that's not going to happen because they're going to ship it directly to you. Wake up to America's coffee by going to blackriflecoffee.com/Y. We got you 20% off your first order if you use promo code Y. And that includes Black Rifle Coffee Club. That's a steal, you guys, because you're getting a discount with Black Rifle Coffee Club, plus you're getting 20% on top of that. It's blackriflecoffee.com/Y. Enter the promo code Y for that 20% off. So a new report. I love it. I love 2020. A new report is out. This is from CNN. So we got to take this for what it's worth. It is from CNN. Now, CNN has told us that there are 4 people who have confirmed that this happened. We don't know who they are. Okay. So again, disclaimer. Take it for what it's worth. It's coming from CNN. But allegedly, Bernie Sanders told Elizabeth Warren during a private meeting in 2018 that he did not think that a woman could win the 2020 presidential election. He, of course, has already come out and said that is not true. That is not what happened in this private meeting that I did have with Elizabeth Warren, but I didn't say that. He has denied it. And as of the time of this taping, I know just because this has just kind of surfaced this afternoon, as of the time of this taping, Elizabeth Warren has not responded yet to the request for comment.
I think that means something.
It is.
It didn't say, it didn't happen.
It is interesting that she hasn't said, we'll see. Maybe she'll come out later and say that it hasn't happened. But it is interesting that this kind of leak report takes place right after the Bernie people were trashing Elizabeth Warren, and Elizabeth Warren came out and said, I thought we were going to play nice. I thought that we were going to be friends and not trash each other, and now you guys are doing it. And then all of a sudden, sources tell CNN that Bernie's sexist. So
this is not a coincidence. The truce is broken, sadly, and it is for our enjoyment, right?
Yeah,
which is it is nice to watch. Because they did famously have kind of a truce, and I think this was the meeting where they kind of discussed it, in which they weren't going to go after each other for the health of the progressive movement and let's be friends. But the bottom line is everybody realizes at some point that needs to end. We're getting close to the election. They're in basically in Iowa, you'd say second and third or second and fourth place. Yeah, we're only a few weeks away. So this had to end at some point. This is blatantly a leak from the Warren campaign. It's 100% chance of it. I believe she did kind of respond in that she said, we did have a private meeting, but the contents of that meeting need to remain private, which is like, that is like the biggest jerk thing to do. Like this guy's in this moment of trying to deny he's a sexist. You're like, I just can't say anything about the meeting. Whether he
I don't know what happened.
Did he say the N-word? I don't know. Who knows? It's funny because I think there's a legitimate possibility that at some point in a meeting he may have said a very common thing that progressives say all the time, which is, well, we need to run a white guy because the rest of this country, it's not us,
right.
The rest
Everyone
of this
else.
country will not vote for a woman or will not vote for a minority candidate. And that sort of like, calculus is prominent on the progressive side of the aisle. They think because they're progressives, they are above these things. However, there's so many voters down there in places like Michigan and Wisconsin and in Pennsylvania, those places that went to Trump, they don't understand that. That's why we need a Joe Biden, or in this case, that's why we need a Bernie Sanders. I think that's a load of crap. I mean, it's a ridiculous thing. I don't think the American people are those people. But there is a big part of the progressive movement that does believe that. And would Sanders say, look, we need to have a socialist candidate, and I'm the only one who can win because there's too many anti-women people out there. There's too many sexists. I think that's possible that he said that in that context. Them framing it this way as a woman candidate can't win, it just shows it's obviously from the Warren campaign, and the gloves are off.
Yeah, Grant?
I think one of his defenses should be that Hillary Clinton told him a woman can't win the presidency. And he was just following her advice on the whole thing.
Actually, it was one of those, I was reading this and it was like an eye roll. Okay, Bernie, when he responded to this, one of the things he said was he tried to spin it the opposite and say, obviously a woman can win because Hillary Clinton won by 3 million votes in 2016. Right, Bernie.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, she's
good.
not sitting in the White House, so I guess she didn't win.
The other thing, he could own it in some respects and say something like, well, I told her a woman can't win this time around because nobody's going to beat me. And I happen to be
that's
a man.
a good one.
Right? And then you own it that way, and you're off the hook.
Yeah.
I don't believe the report. I don't really believe that he looked at her and said, a woman can't win. Like if they're friends and they're discussing things, he probably didn't say that, but it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter whether it's true or not.
I'm with you.
It's
I
out
think
there.
he could have said it. I honestly think he could have said
in a
it.
different
context, right?
Yeah.
I think it's possible, right? I think like the bigger story here, though, is that Warren their campaign is now coming after him overtly. They see that they're in trouble, right? Warren had her run. And to be fair to Sanders, he did not do much of anything when she was beating the crap out of him a couple months ago. Did not go out and criticize. But now that we're getting closer, now that Warren is really she in these early states is in fourth place in some of these polls. That's not workable. She needs to win. She can't. Elizabeth Warren cannot be president if she does not win either New Hampshire or Iowa. She has to win one of the two. Which
is why she is focusing on the really, really big, hard-hitting issues that most Americans face every day, like putting trans women in prison with men or women.
That's an important voting block.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're
something. Let's listen to what she had to say.
That is also true with the LGBTQ community. We have to protect all of our people. And it works all the way through the system. We were talking earlier about criminal justice. One of the things we have to think about as a nation, we have to stop putting trans women who are incarcerated into prisons with men where they are at risk. And it's our responsibility.
That was not an applause line.
That's what I'm like.
They'll clap at anything.
Clapping. They're like
all the
clapping
buzzwords were there.
seals.
So, it gets the applause.
It's so interesting to me that she says we have to protect all people, and then immediately says we're going to put biological women at risk by putting them in prison with men.
I think it's important to say that you're at risk in prison.
Yeah.
First of all, that's just going to be a thing. So
maybe don't do crimes and get sent to prison.
Yes, there's a risk.
This whole issue, completely. Does anyone else's head spin on the trans issue? So they're allowed to play sports as men, but then they don't want them going into male prisons.
Right.
They want them going into FEMA. They don't even know what they want when it
they
comes to
don't.
this whole thing. And I can't keep track of it.
What could possibly go wrong with this scenario?
Because I think, and guys, I could totally not get this right, but what I think she just said, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that trans women which we would just say are just men, right, are now, she wants to put them in the population with women.
Right. What could possibly go wrong?
Like, that is.
Safety reasons.
Right.
For safety reasons, right? Like, I mean, that is.
They're at risk.
It blows your mind that anyone.
See, this is why I get confused. So it's the trans men, the men.
A man
It's a
who's
man.
transitioned to a
biological
woman.
man.
Yes.
She wants
to put in with
With
women.
women,
I
which is a
assume-
much higher risk to the population
Yes.
than the other way around, I would think.
Unless she wants to, I don't know, build prisons specifically for transgender women.
Which I think probably she does.
Yeah,
I mean, if you asked her, I bet she'd say yes.
Or maybe there's like a different wing, like the smoking area of the old restaurants, where like you have like this is the trans area, and like you have like 14 different
Do you realize, though, like, we're laughing about this? This is how desperate they are.
I know.
That these are the issues they're talking about. And truthfully, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren fighting, it's brilliant. I mean, that's the best thing that could happen to the Trump campaign.
Yeah.
That these two were battling it out, and everybody else has fallen off the map.
Yeah.
Do you
It's
think
not bad for the
disarray?
Biden campaign either. I mean, the Biden's got to be sitting back here like, I'm in first place, and I'm look at these two guys fighting. All right, go ahead.
What
Beat each
voter in
other up.
Iowa came up to her and said, "This is the issue that I really need you to address"?
Right.
I can't imagine who's talking about that. But
Yeah.
Well, it's partially like, it's almost like a parlor trick, right? Like where, if you're super smart, like Dennis Miller used to do this all the time. Like he'd be doing Monday Night Football and he'd come up with these references from like, a war in like the year 1300. And like, he's quoting these things you've never heard of before. And it's almost like he's like showing off his intellect, right? This is what they do here. Like they're just showing off, I will go to this woke level. Remember Castro was like, pregnant men need to be protected. And you're like,
Reproductive
need
justice.
abortions. And you're like, pregnant men need abortions. These aren't even things. These are like, you've just taken a bunch of words and thrown them at like a Velcro board and they're all sticking next to
like
each other.
his biggest moment of his campaign. Too.
It was probably.
And yet, they get applause.
Yeah, they
when
get
say
applause, but does it work? I mean, Castro's done.
gone, yeah.
Warren is fading. These are not the issues that are actually connecting, even with Democratic voters.
Yeah.
Can I just say not to be sexist, because this goes for men and
here we
women.
go.
Men and
Guaranteed
women, but
sexist
I'm
coming.
watching that video of Elizabeth Warren, and I don't want a president taking fashion tips from Mr. Rogers, man or woman.
To be fair. All right. Before we go, we have to say goodbye. I want to get your final thoughts on our good friends, Marianne Williamson, who of course withdrew from the presidential race after the time of Friday's taping.
Are you doing okay in
I'm
light of
not,
that news?
actually.
Okay.
I'm not. I wore all black all weekend. I cried. I ate lots of carbs and ice cream. It was disastrous. So my girl Marianne officially gone. Obviously, it was only a matter of time. And also, crazy-eyed Cory Booker, he has announced today he is, in fact, suspending his 2020 presidential campaign. He was so close, though, Stu. He was so close.
The media loved him. I mean, the media gave him high marks in every single debate.
The media.
They kept
Did they give
selling it.
negative marks to anybody?
Not usually. If you said conservative things, maybe occasionally they would. It's weird, though. I mean, like, Booker was one of those guys who it seemed like the media was going to force him into making a run at this thing, and it just never occurred. Yeah. And it comes down to, quite honestly, the racism of Democratic voters. They just will not vote for minority candidates.
I'm glad you said that.
Thank you. I had to say it.
Will you miss Spartacus?
I will not miss Spartacus. Truthfully, I think this really says something about, obviously, I'm a big 2A advocate. And this is the guy, remember, that said, we will throw you in jail if you don't give up your firearms that they want to take from you. I think that was one of the key moments that sent him plummeting, because there are certainly Democrats that, yes, it may be a surprise to the rest of the Democratic Party, that support the right to bear AR-15s, and he was against that. And as for Williamson, she just proves that people have this inflated view of themselves.
So, you mentioned Cory Booker and his comments on the Second Amendment. He also just recently made comments saying that he would actually just he would pause any sort of deportations from illegal immigrants. He would just put those on hold. I wonder if that hurt him as well, Aaron. What do you think?
It might have hurt him, but he said that he was struggling to raise money because of impeachment. That was distracting him. So now he'll have time to handle that, I guess. I mean, when you talk about these things, immigration or guns, I get mixed up who said what, because they all kind of said the same things. And it's just a matter of like, who do you want to put the face on it? Because they're all kind of chasing each other with these progressive policies.
Yeah. So. Before we go to break, we usually do an in memoriam. I can't say that frickin' word. But we thought we'd change it up a little and just give Cory Booker a proper send-off by showing you an oldie but a goodie from Wonderful World of Stu.
Life is pain.
I hurt.
Suffering is national.
Tens of millions of Americans are hurting right now.
Memories are fleeting.
Your silence and your amnesia is complicity.
Statistics are complicated.
I don't know if 73% of your time is spent on white supremacist hate groups.
Words are hard.
For you not to feel that hurt and that pain.
For those tender moments when an overly eager senator tries to mansplain simple concepts to the Secretary of Homeland Security.
The fact pattern is clear of the threats in this country.
You need the new cologne, Tears of Rage.
Tears of rage.
Righteous condescension you can smell and feel. Available now in the cologne aisle of select New Jersey Kroger markets.
That's unacceptable to me.
Caution, Tears of Rage may cause extreme pandering and may lead to acute levels of embarrassment when you watch videos of your pathetic performance. Tears of Rage should not be used in conjunction with a future presidential campaign.
Before we get back into the conversation, we would like to thank our sponsor, My Patriot Supply. Now, I'm not a prepper. Stu, you're not a prepper either, right?
No, I'm way too lazy for that.
Well, but
Not true. It's prepping is work. You ever see Glenn? Like, Glenn's got like a year of food.
yeah, that's
Like,
true.
he went
I
through
just
the real
I don't have
process.
the space to, like, where do you put a year or two worth of food?
Can I tell you guys, you
to
need to
build a
be
cave?
somewhat prepped. You don't
Right.
need to be like a year of food prep, but you need to be somewhat prepped. The lights go out for more than 24, 48 hours.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You need to be prepped.
Right, which is why My Patriot Supply is so crucial because, as Grant said, you know, you've got, I mean, we've seen what's going on in the world right now. You've
Zombie
got-
apocalypse. You've
Yeah,
got
obviously, when that
happening
happens.
in Washington right now.
But, you know, you've got a terrorist attack that happens. Or, I mean, you never know when something is going to happen, especially if you listen to the mainstream media who tells you that Trump is about to, like, start World War III. Well, if that's true, then you're going to need My Patriot Supply and you're going to need some emergency food. My Patriot Supply has emergency food kits and storage. Stu, you've got a bunch at home and it just comes in a box.
Yeah,
easily
super easy
stored,
to store.
easy to pick up and go, too, if you need to.
Yeah, because they kind of have every level. You could do like the 48-hour kit type of situation for like a real quick, you know, terrorist attack sort of emergency. You need to move quickly. They've got a couple weeks you can buy. You can go all the way up to a year. They'll do all of it for you, make it super easy, and you don't have to be a prepper. You just need to have the basics.
Right. So you're not a prepper if you get like 2 to 3 weeks of emergency food. And you can do that with My Patriot Supply. You got to go to preparewithglenn.com. You can get 40% off right now. Okay. 40% off of this food kit. It'll get you 2 weeks of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you will be covered in the event that something happens. Preparewithglenn.com, guaranteed 2-day delivery.
Do you know it costs me money when I come on the show? Because literally, you do these things, and
then
I
you
have
buy it
to go.
all.
I have to go get them.
Welcome.
I'm like, I'm doing that.
Welcome,
I'm doing
Grant,
that.
because I do the same thing, especially, and I listen to Glenn's radio show, and I'm like, oh, I want that. Okay, I want that too.
Right.
All right, I want that.
Right.
I know.
Great.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Sorry for having awesome
okay.
sponsors. Okay. President Trump expressed his solidarity with Iranian protesters, calling for the resignation of Ayatollah Khamenei on Saturday. First of all, he wrote it in Farsi, and I believe it was the most liked Farsi tweet in Twitter history. But he said, "To the brave, long-suffering people of Iran, I've stood with you since the beginning of my presidency, and my administration will continue to stand with you. We are following your protests closely and are inspired by your courage. The government of Iran must allow human rights groups to monitor and report facts from the ground on the ongoing protests by the Iranian people. There cannot be another massacre of peaceful protesters, nor an internet shutdown. The world is watching." Now, mainstream media, people on the left, Nancy Pelosi, everywhere you look, they would say that the Iranians are protesting America. Right? I mean, they are protesting that we're the ones who did it. We're the ones who caused it. Let me give you just a short clip of what Nancy Pelosi said this weekend on ABC.
We get there. We're seeing now demonstrations in the streets of Iran against the regime. Do you support those protesters, and would it be a good thing if they brought the regime down?
Well, the protesters are protesting, as I understand it, this brand of protesters, about the fact that that plane went down, and many students were on that plane, and these are largely students in the street. I think the Iranians should have not had commercial flights going off when there
They're
was.
calling out the regime for lying. They're saying death to Khomeini as well.
No, well, whatever it is. But the fact is this: there were protesters in the streets before against the regime. After the taking out of Soleimani, there were protesters in the street joined together, as you know, against us. That wasn't good. Taking down this plane is a terrible, terrible tragedy. And they should be held accountable for letting commercial flights go at a time that was so dangerous. But there are different reasons why people are in the street. Of course.
Interesting deflection when asked if it would be a good thing if the regime were taken down. But when she talked about America and how, you know, obviously they are mad at us and, you know, this is what's going on over there. Interesting, because this weekend I saw a video of the Iranian people trying to avoid walking on the American and Israeli flag that the government painted on the ground. There are a bunch of students at a university, and they are trying not to walk on our flag as to not show disrespect. A lot of the reporting is saying that, I mean, they're like, death to Khomeini, and also, you know, we want freedom like you guys in America. Stu, what are your thoughts?
It's embarrassing the way the media has handled this. You know, to act as if the Iranian people are united against us because of this. I mean, there wasn't a lot of evidence at any point. I mean, look, we've seen totalitarian regimes turn out a lot of people before. I mean, Kim Jong-un doesn't have a lot of a problem getting people out for rallies.
I mean, if the choices are rally or death or destruction to my family, I'm going to the rally.
Exactly. I mean, you know, Tiananmen Square is famous because it was the one time there were protesters against the regime in that place. But like, there's always been gigantic rallies. Authoritarians can turn out people. You know, that's not a question. The question here is like, how do you not recognize the amazing thing that's going on when these people who are basically doing at the barrel of a gun of an authoritarian regime, going out and saying, you know, that the regime needs to come down, that the Americans are the ones actually, you know, with the right ideas here. That's kind of amazing. You don't see that often. We complained about the president not doing anything about this when Obama was in office, I think rightfully so. And here we're seeing the president is doing something. He's showing support outwardly. He's doing things behind the scenes. And he's handled this, again, very well. Whether this is going to translate through all the media noise, it's hard to know.
When you say, and I know you say it facetiously, when you say, how do you not acknowledge this? The reason they don't acknowledge it, as we all know, is because they don't want to even give Donald Trump any possible credit for seeing this uprising. And to me, it's not just the media, but when you have the Speaker of the House actually trying to distance herself from pro-American Iranian students who are not walking on our American flag and risking their lives in the name of freedom, that she doesn't stand up and put all politics aside between President Trump and do what is right and support these kids that, as you said, Sarah, they run the risk of having their heads lopped off.
A lot of them are being killed.
Yeah.
I mean, even today. Aaron, what are your quick thoughts?
I wish I said it's surprising that they're doing this, but we've seen it over and over again. They've flipped on every single step of this process. How is it Donald Trump's fault? How is it wrong? And they'll go to any lengths to do it, right? Even if there's video evidence in front of their face that people are protesting in favor of us against the Iranian regime, they'll still find some way to flip it. The goalpost will always keep moving, and there's nothing that Donald Trump or anybody else can do about it.
Being pro-terrorist to own the cons. Back in a minute. Hey, I know we promised you this big announcement last week, and then I was like, hey, the announcement is that we don't have an announcement. Stu!
Well, as we all know, what America needs is another white male on television, and I'm ready to step in and fill that role bravely. Stu Does America is the name of the new show. Please subscribe on YouTube. Here is just a little preview for you. I look wonderful.
I mean, I could do it if you want.